Hello and welcome to this special episode of Champions of Change, a series where we look at some iconic enterprises and focus on the stellar work that they are doing in bringing about a change at the workplace by making diversity and inclusion a way of life. In this episode, we present to you a company that has championed the cause of diversity and inclusion at their organization and within their sector, Hdfc Bank.
A leader in the banking space, Hdfc Bank ensures that it is a front runner in diversity and inclusion. Today, in order to foster a culture of diversity and inclusion throughout the organization, the bank has identified two action items: enhancing gender diversity and empowering people with disabilities, not just in principle but through on-ground action. We spoke to Kaizad Bharucha, Executive Director, Hdfc Bank, to know more about diversity and inclusion at Hdfc Bank.
Thank you so much, sir, for talking to us. So, the bank has grown exponentially over the past 25 years. How has the bank ensured that this has been inclusive and there's been inclusive growth around the spectrum?
Well, at HDFC Bank, we've always lived the ethos of merit-based inclusion. And this has been, across the pan-India framework on which we operate. And one of the core pillars of the bank's value statement, which has been enshrined right from the time we started the bank, has been our people. So the bank has always focused on merit-based inclusion, in order to attract the best talents, nurture, retain, irrespective of gender or any differences. We have a strong example of women who joined us as young management trainees and have grown to not only middle level positions, but right to the top at group head levels. So this has been something which, we have followed over the last 2 decades and is something that we believe we will continue to do. The current leadership team is, committed to take this forward, and we value the differences, we value the different opinions, which is not just based on gender or education and social background. And this really is our has been and will continue to be our commitment towards inclusion. We've got a very large customer base. And I think, one of the numbers which resonates to show this is the growing level of our customers who are women.
Mr. Bharucha, I know that June 21st has been designated as Inclusion Day at Hdfc Bank. Can you tell us what this means for the bank and why did you take this step and what are some of the special initiatives that have been undertaken?
Well, as I said, whilst inclusion has always been part of our journey, in order to provide a better, structure, and to institutionalize the whole process, we called out the 21st of June as Inclusion Day. What this basically does is we put in place a 3-tiered structure, starting with the Apex Inclusion Council, which consists of, 6 of our senior most members of management, which has a good representation of our women leaders within that. And below that, we would have, 2 other groups who would be working with them. The Inclusion Council fundamentally would, set the tone at the top and provide the policies and programs that really need to be followed in order to ensure, we have, more optimal results, of the whole initiative. So, there would be a working committee which would, cover every vertical, and then there would be regional inclusion councils so that we cover the entire geography. So with this architecture and within these verticals, as well as within the regional councils, we would have a good representation of women members. So these groups will ensure the inclusion objective. It would ensure the success of what has to be done and how it has to be done. And they will, provide the requisite support that needs to be provided at a ground level and a field level to ensure that each of the objectives and support that needs to be given is provided. So I think we've launched a very important program called the Career Accelerator program. And under this program, we've identified 120 women leaders who are being nurtured, in terms of taking on, higher roles and leadership roles across a very structured journey. Eventually, one has seen that when you have more inclusiveness and more diversity, and women are given not only a seat at the table, but a voice at the table, organizations globally have done well. And, to my mind, it's not only helps the organization, it also helps, grow the economy, as you get more women into the workforce and more women into leadership positions.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you very much.
The core of any organization is its people, and to bring about a change right from the top to the bottom, the HR team plays an integral role. We caught up with Vinay Razdan, CHRO at HDFC Bank, to know more.
We're now in conversation with Mr. Vinay Razdan. So, in large organizations, one major concern is that any message can be lost in translation, from how the top management has it in mind and how it flows down. So how is the top management ensuring that the vision for a diverse and inclusive centric organization filters down to the grassroots?
So I think, first of all, very, very simply put, you should not underestimate the execution challenge of translating the intent into really altering the mindset of people across the organization. The whole idea is, how are you going to shape the mindsets? How are you going to alter the mindsets? Because you must understand one thing, that a lot of things that we deal with in organizations are a reflection of the society that we live in. So there are a lot of sociological situations which surface themselves at work. And it's not easy to change attitudes, because you're talking about the way people have been brought up, the way they experience their social life, family life, whatever. So essentially two things, Sumit, that one, you need to have a proper governance mechanism. Second, you really, really have to invest a lot of time in carrying the message, and that should be done at the senior most levels in the organization across ad nauseum. You keep on repeating it ad nauseum till people understand this is what the organization stands for very seriously.
That's a really important point about the repetition. That's most importantly required. But Mr. Razdan, HR, of course, plays a crucial role in this. Of course. Getting the organization to transition. So could you shed some light on maybe some of the steps that are being taken by the HR department at HDFC Bank to action this plan at the bank?
I think banking sector, is one sector which lends itself to having a fair share of women employees. So what we have really done is that to look at it in a holistic way from a governance standpoint, we have a multi-tiered inclusion councils framework that we have put in place. Then we have 6 regional councils across the whole country, right, which represents a particular geography, which has senior leaders from across different verticals of the bank in that. And to the extent possible, we have ensured that there are women representations also, in those forums. So it was a lot of thought went into it, and a lot of discussions went into it. And finally, very happy to share with you that our executive director, Mr. Kaizad Barucha, on June 21st, when we launched this initiative across the organization, we also declared June 21st as the Inclusion Day for the bank. So this is not going to be a set of actions or set of interventions which will just happen for 2 months or 6 months or whatever. This will be something which will go a long way towards institutionalizing it.
And, Mr. Razdan, you spoke about June 21st, which is Inclusion Day at HDFC Bank. And you made a very valid point, so that it's not one day, it's not 1 week, it's not 1 month, it's long term. It's got to be ingrained in the DNA of not just the company, because I mean the employees make the company, so it's got to be ingrained in the employees to understand diversity, to understand inclusion. So how is HDFC Bank working to instill this sense amongst the employees?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. You must have heard this very popular saying, culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Absolutely.
Attributed to Peter Drucker. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, everyone understands the importance of culture, but not many organizations have a proper thought through strategy around culture creation. Right. So in the HDFC Bank, we spend considerable time in identifying what are the levers which resonate with people. What does HDFC Bank stand for? What does it mean to people? So there are 6 culture pillars that we have identified, which is what you as a HDFC banker is expected to emulate, expected to practice, expected to uphold on everyday basis. So there is a pillar on inclusion, there's a pillar on integrity, there's a pillar on execution, there's a pillar on collaboration, there's a pillar on humility. So a lot of work around creating that awareness, checking that awareness through multiple surveys, engagement surveys that we keep on doing. We also do a formal survey from great places to work, which will be a great insight to tell us that how significant shift we have made.
Now, it's a known fact, the number of statistics, reports that say that women are an essential part of the economy, but every year we lose a portion of this highly talented workforce when they take a career break for whatever personal reasons. Now, how is the bank working towards getting women back after the career break? How's the bank making it easy for them?
COVID has presented a huge opportunity in the way that work from home is becoming an acceptable model of work nowadays. For most organizations, they're embracing it. Some may not because of whatever reason, but most organizations and HDFC Bank has also embraced it. So we expect a lot of people to be working out of home and not coming to work every day. I think these situations put together offer a serious opportunity where you can engage different segments of population. Women is one of them. It could be disabled people also. It very well could be people who are above a certain age. So it offers a huge opportunity. Coming specifically to what are we doing? Any kind of working arrangement that a person wants is available today in the bank. Extension of leaves, half day, half work, 2 days a week work, whatever. Besides having support systems around expectant mother, turning mothers, creating groups around that, getting expert help, doctors, so many, counseling help. So all those kind of things. We also, as part of the, program of attracting people, women employees who have left us, we are running a program called Bank Again, where women employees who have left us in the past 3 to 5 years, we have compiled a list of that. And through agencies which are supporting us in this endeavor, we are reaching out to them and inviting them to come back to work if they would like to. So that is something also which has got a lot of buzz now in the external world amongst the ex-HDFC bankers.
And Mr. Razdan, if you can tell me, what is HDFC Bank doing for people with disabilities?
So what we have done is that we tied up with an organization called Youth for Jobs, which is a Hyderabad-based NGO. We organized a first sensitization workshop for the board, along with all the CXOs of the organization. Then we covered the next sets of leaders in that. And now, as we speak, we have programs running across the length and breadth of the organization by which we are building awareness on this subject, right? But at the same time, and it's a journey that we want to make some progress faster as well, we have identified roles across functions by engaging with leaders, which lend themselves to working from home, right? The other part of this is that we are also doing an audit of our infrastructure in terms of, whether there's a washroom available for a disabled person, whether there's a ramp available, if it is a first floor or second floor office, is there a lift available, so on and so forth. And from the governance structure again, people with disability is a mandate of the Inclusion Council as well. I think next year when we celebrate, and maybe in 2 years' time, we would be looking back at some good results.
Absolutely. I'm very sure of the same. And I really wish you and the entire team all the very best, because what you're doing is very much required. And I'm sure you will execute it in the very best way. Thank you so much, Mr. Razdan, for talking to us and giving us
Thank you.
Empowering and training women to take up senior roles at HDFC Bank is a part of the company's DNA. Ashima Bhatt, Group Head Business Finance and Strategy, CSR and ESG, Administration and Infrastructure at HDFC Bank, spoke to us about some of the initiatives taken by the bank to promote women leadership.
Ma'am, can you tell us a little bit more about how HDFC Bank is inducting women employees at scale, given the reach of the bank, and how over 50% of the branches are in non-metro or rural locations?
I think the bank is very focused on making sure that we have good gender diversity. So in fact, it's even better that when we have a 50% rural presence or a semi-urban presence, it becomes that much more interesting, because as in most cases, I won't say in every case, women, it's a little difficult for working women to leave their cities, the city of where they are based, to move into another city. So in fact, we are providing employment opportunities in their home places as well. So because of the reach, we have close to about 6,000 branches. Because of the reach, I think it really helps us bring in this workforce into the bank.
And ma'am, what are some of the steps taken by the bank to make it easier for new mothers to come back to the workplace? Because that is a sizable talent pool that very often organizations lose out on. So how's the bank making a difference?
Of course, there is a 6-month maternity leave. We try and encourage flexible timing. We also have a lot of parenting. There's something called Pleasant Parenthood, which we've launched, which is also guiding right from the time of the woman figures out that she's expecting. We have a lot of good maternity care programs going right from diet to doctor advice to emergency care if required. So we take care of the women right up to the delivery time and even post that.
That's great to know, ma'am. One final question. Ma'am, what happens very often is that women, as they go up the corporate ladder or the organizational structure, they move from junior to mid and then to senior. But many women somewhere in the middle leave the workforce, whether personal reasons or whatever they feel. How is, so my question to you is this, ma'am, that how is HDFC Bank, how does it support women in transitioning to senior roles in an organization?
Excellent question, Sumit. I think we've got, actually, we've recognized this. And women anywhere are usually the primary caregiver or the nurturer for the family. And they do need time, especially in the current times, if they have to take care of their families, parents, in-laws in COVID. So we make sure that they get that flexibility. And to make them progress as they go on in the organization, what we've done is we've identified some very young, talented women in the bank. And we are going to make sure that so we link them to a mentor. So lots of little measures, and they're always available at any point of time.
Great that the bank is doing so much. Thank you so much, ma'am, for talking to us and for sharing your experience and your insights with us. Thank you.
Pleasure, Sumit. Thanks.
Moving on, we spoke with Smita Bhagat about her journey at the bank.
Ma'am, thank you so much for joining us here today. Can you tell us about your journey emerging as a senior business leader in the banking space here at HDFC Bank? Given the talent dynamics at the start of your career.
I started my career with the bank in 1999 when the bank had only 50 branches, and today we are almost 6,000 branches. And I started my career in a place in Jaipur, where during that time, I was probably one of the maybe one or two women who were there in private sector banks, and not only in private sector banks, but also amongst the organizations out there. And within 3 years of my working with HDFC Bank, during that time, we opened 7 branches, and we created our name for ourselves in the state of Rajasthan, got opportunity to move to Bombay. And I would say that was probably big change in my life. And, getting opportunity, organization believing in you, organization giving you opportunity. It's been a great journey since then. But yes, the states where I worked, definitely, women had limited opportunities. But as a bank, we were always very open to the idea of recruiting women. And I would say that way, HDFC Bank has been a great organization, creating enabling environment for women. And that is what organization is supposed to do.
We'd love to hear from you, your advice to women who are in the profession, maybe who started or who are at junior level, mid-level. Your advice, your learnings from your journey that you would like to share with them so that they can have, that extra boost or that extra boost up so that they can progress faster in their careers.
One thing I would like to tell all my younger colleagues, women colleagues, is that whatever you decide to do, there has to be full commitment and passion. Head and heart have to work together, because that is where you will be able to be successful in whatever you do. Second is that please do not hesitate to talk to your other women colleagues, and not only women, men colleagues as well, because if you hesitate, you are actually doing disservice to yourself, because then you are creating pressure on yourself, creating stress on yourself. So the point I was trying to make is, do not quit, do not hesitate to ask, always take support and talk to people and learn from their experiences.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, ma'am. It's been an absolute pleasure to interact with you and to hear about your journey. All our very best wishes to you for the way ahead. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you, Sumit. Pleasure talking to you.
After our conversations with management, we spoke to women employees to know more about their journey at HDFC Bank.
And the best part about this bank is about right from the senior management to the last person in the line, everyone understands and empathizes with each other. So it's not just the women folk, but even if a man is going through a certain crisis, everyone is there to stand by him.
I have been part of this organization since May 2008. So I've been a case wherein I have taken maternity leave not once, but twice. And I think a simple mantra that HDFC Bank follows is you perform, you reap. So I don't think maternity leaves are any deterrent to any women in this organization. And to let you know, I think on a lighter note, I think this organization really likes to surprise you when you're going on a maternity leave, because 2 of my promotions happened around and in my maternity leave. Things are very flexible, but I think with HDFC Bank, it's been a super transition for me. I don't think any organization can ever think of doing that.
I have been with the bank since last 13 years. And yeah, it's been a very good experience till now. When I was about to go on the maternity leave, it was really very smooth. When I was about to join back, that anxiety of leaving your child at home and coming back to work, it's very bad. It's really severe. That 1 month, 20 days, 1 month, my supervisor, my colleagues, they really made me very comfortable in joining back. I was allowed to, go a little early home. So yeah, it's been a very, very, smooth, very comfortable journey.
That's all on this episode of Champions of Change, where we saw how HDFC Bank is pulling out all stops to make itself a diverse and inclusive workplace. Not just because it's the in thing to do, but because it's the right thing to do. Thank you so much for watching.